recording. Hi, Marty.
Hi, how are you, Kate?
I'm doing pretty great. How about you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty great. Um, Hung out with my friend and her baby like all day, and we did some baking at her place, so I don't even have a mess to clean up,
Oh my god, that's
which is like two of my favorite things. Yeah.
right? Now
Oh
you don't have to
God.
do the dishes.
Absolutely. And I only have like half of a coffee cake to eat. So
Today? Like all of today? Or you mean
I don't
like
have to eat the whole like in general. Like I
oh,
don't have a
okay.
whole coffee cake to eat. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
okay. Yes, no, that
Yeah.
100%. I was
Yeah.
like, no, you need to
You have
eat
to
more
eat
than
half?
that. You need veggies. No, Marty.
Okay. I understand what you were concerned about. I thought you were like, you have to eat the whole half today? Not that's the only thing you have to eat.
No, no.
I was like,
Like
why is she so
sometimes
alarmed?
earlier today one of my friends messaged me like, how do you like what are you supposed to do if you eat too much like rice and it all gets stopped up in your stomach? And I'm like, oh yeah,
Oh, geez.
you just have to like sit there through it, and like we're going back and forth like trying to brainstorm what to eat when you're in that situation. And so like when you were like,
Lots
I've
of
had coffee
water.
cake today, and I was like, that's no good.
No, I would not be able to talk right now if that was the case. For one thing, I'd have a terrible headache because too much sugar gives me a hangover and like I also like experience it the same day. It'd all be bad. The whole thing would be bad. But your friend needs to drink a ton of fucking water.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, go get those better
Yeah.
than bouillon soup like cubes, and like just make yourself like the lightest chicken soup there is. I fucking love doing that because I don't like chicken noodle soup. I don't like things in
Oh,
the
I've
soup.
never done that. Oh, really? You just want broth?
Yeah, when it's chicken, like anything else, I'm like, it
Uh-huh.
needs the things.
Uh-huh. That was the other thing is she had made like a butternut squash tortellini soup yesterday, so I had that for lunch today and it was delicious.
I keep trying to make myself like butternut squash as like a
I
food.
love butternut squash. Also, hey, listener, I'm Marty V, and that's Kate Pryor, and
Oh
this is
yeah.
Romance Writers Therapy.
Oh no, this is soup corner and
Welcome.
coffee cake corner and
And drink
like
a whole lot
weird
of
eating
fucking
habits
water.
corner.
So Kate, what did you do today?
Today, I went to the office, so did like three things for my actual job, and then like I opened up my like subtle Google document and I wrote all day. I've been
Oh
doing
my
this for like
gosh.
a week.
That sounds amazing.
Problem is, I'm
Uh,
writing for the wrong story once again, and it's like,
Is it
like
Logan?
no, it's not even like in the right series anymore. I'm like, all right, I'm
God,
gonna
I
switch
love
to something
you.
I haven't touched in months, years.
What is
Maybe
it?
maybe like a few months.
Is it the star one?
Hmm.
Is it the star one?
Sorry, what?
The star STAR one?
Oh, sorry, I could not hear you at all. Like it was like you had like moved out of the room.
It was, I mean, when I was saying it, I was like, this doesn't feel like I'm forming the word properly. It's like when every time I try to say Arthur,
Oh,
like my mouth can't put it, I can't fit the word in my mouth. It doesn't
so
feel right.
interesting.
Yeah. But was it the star one?
No, unfortunately, it was
Dang it.
that
You
thing has
know how I
like
feel about that
ten
one.
thousand words left till it's done, and I'm just kind of like, yeah, it's gonna sit like that for a while.
That is so funny. Your award-winning manuscript.
Yeah, the thing that was supposed to be finished.
Okay, in your defense, it's really good. And
Also,
you'll get to it eventually.
yeah, it's already won an award. It's fine.
It's fine. She's already a golden child.
She doesn't need an ending to make her good.
No, we've already proven. Have the award to prove it. So,
Yeah, no.
okay, so you've been doing that writing. I have been opening my manuscript.
Yes.
Like I wake up at 5:30 in the morning like I usually do.
Hmm.
And then I putz around for a little bit. And so I sit down at the computer somewhere around 6 a.m., open my manuscript, and then it's like You know how you aren't supposed to look a predator in the eye?
Oh my god.
It's like I'm treating my manuscript that way. Like I just like can't look directly at it. So but yeah. That's where I'm at on it. But what's really cool is I do that for like 45 minutes, and then the last 15 minutes I realize like something about the scene that has to happen, and I write like 3 or 4 sentences. And then
Ooh, I like that.
yeah. It is like there's definitely still discovery happening. But like
while there's like a tiger in the room.
yes, exactly. While it is the tiger in the room.
It is the tiger.
But yeah, yeah. Anyway, I got my manuscript evaluation back on it, and it was really favorable. She like pinpointed a couple things that were really strong about it, and it's not like a huge overhaul of the story, but there is like I need to develop some censures to like clean her up. So yeah, that's where I'm at on it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm glad that you got your manuscript evaluation back, and that it's not terrifying.
Yeah, you and I will have to have a conversation. Moment. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, you and I need to discuss some thoughts. Yeah. I might just send it to you and have you help me suss it out.
I'm going to cut this part out, but like, what do you think about the idea of doing an episode where you go over the feedback you got from the evaluation and you kind of talk about whether or not you feel like you want to accept each piece of critique or not?
Let me read the evaluation again. I only read it once, and it is like pretty dense. I could definitely do that. I think
going through it is like what could be a cool like thing to see, but I also understand that it could be highly personal.
Well, it's not that big a deal, honestly. I actually think that it might be more beneficial to do that with like the critiques I received for like Hazel and Elijah.
Okay.
And then discussing things that I chose to do and did not choose to do, because like that's a more clear thought in my head right now.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
As opposed to like the way my brain is trying to work.
To like kind of point at like what you've already done.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'd be really interesting.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cut that bit out.
Okay, cool.
But we need to remember I will remember it when I edit it.
Yeah. That's a good point, because it is recorded. We need to remember it. No, we don't. We'll tell us later.
Yeah. Okay, so in light of like your manuscript evaluation, something that we were talking about just a little bit ago. The 2 seconds before we got on the call.
A little bit ago.
You mentioned that you wanted to talk about character growth and feeling like what it like means to write that in, and what it means to like have characters that are stagnant, this sort of conversation. It is kind of a nebulous concept, I think, that if it doesn't like immediately feel self-explanatory to you, and I can't imagine that it necessarily would to anyone.
Yeah, well, and I think that like it can really guide your character's like motives, right?
Yeah, like what it means like, to have
and seeing those motives change.
Yeah. I think it's such a hard thing to like kind of capture, to hold a character with so many different versions of the character in your head, like what growth, because growth is an arc, and you're kind of capturing snapshots of that change, like the various stages like throughout that arc,
Yeah, and then like how do you show it without having like a drastic jump that feels inconsistent with the character?
Right, absolutely.
And like how do you push them? And then like okay.
So if I want to like start off with an example, I just absolutely remembered this moment.
Okay. Love
So,
that.
listener, you haven't read this in like a very hipstery kind of way. It's also because it's not published yet. So our good friend Katarina Stone, you know, part of our critique group. So I think she actually has presented all of the chapters throughout all the meetings, like one chapter a meeting kind of thing. And we kind of actually do have the whole bird's eye view of the story, which is not something we all necessarily do in our critique group. Sometimes
Yeah.
people will skip ahead. Some people will go back and rewrite a chapter. So
Or in
it
my
can be
case,
pretty
like I will
easy.
just
Yeah.
stop reading on this book and switch to the next book, sort of thing. Like we discussed a couple episodes ago, you don't even like you never read any of the ending of Hazel and Elijah.
Yeah, and like so sometimes it's just so easy to get so lost and not really have the entire picture, like even as like a continued member of the critique group. Like you're not brain, where were we going with that?
Well, you're at Katarina Stone, and that
Katarina
she
Stone.
shared
Okay,
every
yes.
single
So she's
chapter.
Stone. She's Stone.
She's Stone,
She
as we like to call her.
I really like, and I think I noticed this because I loved the way that she started this. So it's a historical novel. I don't want to go too into the details.
Yeah,
But it's a romance.
all I can say is like it's absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Yes, no, I need her to like fit it, like hurry up and put this book out there so I can have like a
I
physical
know.
copy and like reread it. I think that would just, because it was a really good book, and
It was
the
so
banter
good.
she does is so top notch banter.
Well, and she has such a great way of like creating an image, like creating a scene with like just the perfect amount of detail. Right? Like you're so immersed and she's not taking too much time in any spot.
Yeah, no, she
Right?
has such a great way of like, just like her way with words is so fantastic.
Absolutely beautiful writing. Yeah,
Like
we're
now
big
I'm thinking
fans.
of like all these compliments we're putting out there. I'm sitting here like, does she listen to our podcast? Like,
Well, she used to. If she doesn't, I'll be like, hey, catch this episode because we spent some time on you.
Yeah. Oh my god. But anyway, so like she has this character Dominic who's like he's some kind of a prince in Vienna. I don't think he's like a direct heir of any throne, but he's still got like duties and stuff. So he starts off in the book an absolute prick. Like he's such an asshole.
Yeah,
And it's
he's
like
very
the
much
funniest
like
kind of way too.
yeah,
'Cause,
like very much like the aristocratic like blinders on, right?
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
like you look at him and you're like, oh, he's not the hero of this like love story, and then it's like, oh no, he is. And
But
it's
then
such
she
a moment.
sells you on him so well.
She does. You're like, oh my god, I cannot wait to see this man like dismantle the way that like his whole psyche.
His entire brain works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know, like then it happens over the course of the book, but it happens so gradually that like I don't know that you can really
feels
pick out
so
any
natural.
moment that like
Yeah.
it feels that he's that he like it doesn't feel like he's changing. But like at the same time, because he's spending so much time with this character who's so radically different. Her name was I don't remember.
Shoot, what was her name?
Was it Ava?
Yes. Way to
Okay.
pull that out. Way to go. For context, this was 3 years ago that we read
Yes.
this story together. Oh man, it was so good. But no, I agree. Like, and we really see how one character influences another. I feel like we should probably give them an example of somebody like from a book they might have
actually
read.
No chance. No.
No, will not. Will not.
Figure it out yourself,
Okay.
listener.
Okay, what about like Pride and Prejudice, where we have Lizzie and Mr. Darcy, and
Ooh.
their arcs are really great because they are very interconnected, and not
They
only are
are.
their arcs like they change throughout the story, but also we see a lot of them reflecting upon their original perspective and how much it's not even it's like a combination. We get to see them change into two people that can be together, but we don't have to see them, either of them, do giant leaps.
Yeah,
like
no,
we still
they
get to
don't
keep
do,
them
like,
as
a
a core of who they
huge
are,
turnaround, like,
but
but
they get to gain perspective.
I don't know if we would, like, I can see how you can make the argument that they've definitely, like, changed as people. I think
I would say so.
it
Because, like,
it feels
particularly,
so subtle.
it does feel so subtle. But, like, I think that's why the combination of perspective growth changing, like, it's great in connection with. So that we don't see, like, Lizzie going from, like, Mr. Darcy is the worst to I would never be prevailed upon to marry you to, you know, like, we don't see such a gigantic change. We still get to keep them as who they are, but we see the right pieces falling into place for them to fit together, right?
Right. Well, so I have a
But,
thought.
like,
No,
I
no,
have a thought
you
too.
Go, you go.
Okay,
You say
okay.
your thought first.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep on running with this.
Okay.
This example. But, like, so Darcy. Shit,
Darcy.
where did it go?
I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Do you need
Darcy.
me to keep talking so that the thought stays there and, like, keep saying, no, let me say my piece.
I'm going to just, like, try to, like, tie these little strings together.
Okay. Darcy,
They're, like, very fine
subtle
hairs.
perspectives.
Okay. So we have Darcy and we have Lizzie overhearing that, like, he would never be tempted by her, right?
Yes.
Like, that's one of our first encounters. Yes. And then we have, like, clearly, like, mood has changed, right? Like, in I'm thinking of the 2005 version because that's always the most vivid.
I think it's a very, like, accessible version because, like,
everyone.
I think it's a very, like, you don't need to have read the book. There's a lot.
Yeah.
I think.
But then, like, we clearly as viewers see that when he is, like, in the library, like, he's gone to the point where, like, she's been living on his mind for a while and he really wants to, like, insinuate that to her, right? And obviously we have the hand twitch, but then we go from that to his first proposal, right? Which is obviously a total flop.
It feels so out of the blue because it's like he hates her, right?
Well, it feels so out of the blue for Lizzie.
Yes.
But, like, as a viewer, you've seen all the pieces, like, laid down, right?
Well, so...
But then in her denying him, someone, like, he did not even fathom that she could possibly deny him. Why on earth would she? In their society, there is no reason why she wouldn't, like, be head over heels ready to accept this man, right?
Yeah.
And it's, like, him realizing that he could be so vile in her eyes, and for all of the reasons she laid out in front of him, with the exception of Wickham, obviously. But that's because she didn't have context, right?
Well, she only had Wickham's context, yeah.
Exactly. And so, like, her turning him down just completely upended his entire reality. And I think through that giant upending, he was able to have reflection and then humble himself to be someone that she would actually get the opportunity to meet. And meanwhile, her story is continuing where she's seeing more signs to support liking him and support the fact that, like, Wickham isn't to be trusted, right?
I saw something really cool. It was a TikTok that was, like, having, like, a perspective on what the different ways that Lydia and Elizabeth Bennet kind of enjoy Wickham's presence, like, what they see, what attracts him about, like, what attracts them to him in different ways. You know, like, what they see in him, what they get out of a relationship with him. And the thing that is so attractive to Elizabeth about Wickham is that he validates how much she hates Darcy. his existence, his story that he
Ooh.
tells her validates the
That's
anger
so
that she's kind of
interesting.
like been holding on to ever since he like called her ugly at the ball. And she's
Well, and
like,
also in this society um where his wealth and his status, like, she can talk shit to Charlotte, but like really, like, what, there
like
is
who
no
else is going
recourse
to
for her.
listen, right? Everyone else keeps
Absolutely.
going on about, oh,
Yeah.
he's so rich and he's so generous and like, oh my
Well,
god,
and then
isn't he pretty?
we
Like,
even
it's
see
all anyone ever
Charlotte
says
giving
about
him
him.
the benefit of the doubt, right?
Absolutely,
And so
yeah.
like who could she possibly beef to, right?
Yeah, so
And
it's
so Wickham fills that role. That is so interesting.
and so I think it is that like, you know, everyone who like when you hate a person, you really want someone else to like be a hater with you. And
Absolutely. 100%.
I think that's like one of the things that like in Jane Austen books that is so lovely to read. It's like, oh, people have not changed in 200 years. This is so comforting.
That is so great. Yeah. Like, we all want our bestie to
Like,
also
every
like despise as human.
Every time I have that moment when reading like her books, it is like such a fantastic feeling. Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, we like, even though I'm having like a hell of a time getting through this dense ass language, like,
Yeah. Dude, serious.
you know, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And I think like, you know, I think when we struggle to relate to history, I just really like these things. I'm sorry, I'm going off in a
Yeah.
weird direction.
No, I absolutely love that. But okay, so what was your point about
Let me see if I can
character arc? Pull it back in your brain.
Yeah, I feel like it's sort of there. So, you said something before the podcast that you felt like you wrote characters who were kind of stagnant. And like, I'm not using that in a pejorative way. I don't think you were either.
No, you're fine.
Like,
No.
it's perfectly fine when the characters are going on a journey together. And I think in a romance, you can't really have characters that are stagnant because the act of falling in love with someone is, you know, changing part of you. Like, you went from not like really knowing or giving a shit about them to being very invested in this person. That is a change, you know. I think when people take issue with like the insta love trope, that's kind of like what they're going. They're like, you denied us the growth that we could have seen throughout the course of this book, which is what people like really are looking for. And so it's, I don't think you can have 100% stagnant characters, but if you're not like really working into the plot, that there's another external character arc, maybe like this character needs to learn to stand up for herself, or like this character needs to, I don't know.
And that is exactly, listener spoiler alert, we're kind of digesting this concept for my benefit. So that is like exactly what I think I need to like devise like for them, right? Where it's
well, so earlier you were talking about Pride and Prejudice, and you were talking about like the perspectives they have and like how subtle the changes are, and I'm sitting here like, I don't know that I would actually say that they change as people, because they feel pretty similar from the beginning to the end to me. But like, then you said the change in perspective is the change, and then it kind of clicked for me, because I was gonna say, I feel like I also write very stagnant characters. And
well, I would say that they both change in the sense that they're both willing to be humbled to be with each other, right?
But like the thing I always know that I come back to in my stories, that I feel like I am coming to, like the thing that I do, I've noticed I do a lot, is that I have characters who start off with a certain perception of each other, and then they kind of like adjust that perception as they go along. And so it's the perception of each other is what's changing, and like a deeper understanding of each other is like what's happening. And I don't know if it feels like solidly enough like you're having characters that change. I don't think it like is a very, and like when we say change, it's like, how drastic does the change need to be? Does it need to be just a change of like perspective shift, or admitting I was wrong about a thing, or does it mean I have to like have fundamentally altered who I am as a person? You know? by the end of the book.
Well, I think for one thing your trope is going to make a difference there, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So like for this trope, okay, so like for enemies to lovers, like we need to see a pretty drastic change, right?
Yes.
And at least somebody.
Well, I think that
I do
there's
like
one
it
of
to
those
be
things
even.
where you get the kind of perspective shift. Like I think with a lot of enemies to lovers stories, there's usually at least a beat where they reveal, oh, here's my tragic backstory, you know, kind of thing. Like, this is why
Or
I'm like mean to people kind of moment.
yeah.
This is why I'm mean to
Or
you
there's like
specifically.
exactly, like there might be also like a miscommunication trope thrown in there too. Like you said this and it triggered this feeling in me, but like
Yeah, you see that a
it
lot too.
wasn't there. Yeah. Yeah. Um but like a friends to lovers, I think a lot of it is perspective that has to change there, where instead of seeing this person as somebody who just remains their friend and yeah, sometimes they're attracted to him, but ultimately they're just pals, right?
Right.
But then it usually will be connected to like um possibly a backstory that I don't like to have an intimate relationship with friends. Like I don't like to cross that road because I did that and then I had my heart broken and I also lost my friend. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I think like
it's
that's
a lot of
kind
times connected to something else. And so again, it becomes a perspective change and maybe a trust change.
you know, while we're talking so much about our friend Katarina Stone, I do remember every time I like start to write it into one of my books now, we're like, oh no, the answer is they need to learn to trust each other. I remember how like her railing against how much she hated that as like a trope in books and being like, oh no, I can't do it. Because
I don't
like she was
distinctly
like, this
remember
is
her
such a
saying
cop
that.
out. You can't do this. Like she wasn't saying it to me. She was just saying it about like
Yeah,
a
in
story
general.
in general. And
Yeah.
I was kind of like, yeah, I can see that, but also shortcut. Love it.
I don't know. I think if you really sell the backstory that like they can't trust each other for X reason,
Yeah.
then I'm fine. It's like anything else, right?
Right.
I don't know.
No, I think that is like I
But
feel
like isn't that the root of like the issue with second chance romance is like proving to them that they can trust each other?
yeah, proving to them that they have grown since their last problem, which I think is definitely a hurdle.
Vital.
I think you need to be so clear about like what the problem was and what the material ways to that the change needs to be seen, and then like what's like the last straw that makes them trust that they're going to commit to that change.
I'm 100% making notes for myself.
So like I think, and then I think we should you know, on a whole other different tangent, I think we should like someone, if not us, should look at a bunch of different tropes and kind of like outline what they kind of promise the reader and kind of put it into like, then these are the beats you need to hit in, and like line it up where you can put it in the romancing the beats kind of structure. Because like for me I'm trying something new with how I outline or not how I outline, without how I build a story. And I'm trying to see if this works better for me than like the kind of stressful way I was doing earlier, or for like the last maybe 2 years, let's say.
Okay.
Which is I'm literally just only allowing myself to think one chapter at a time and like trying to really rely on what the world building and the tropes inherent to a certain kind of story structure, what that those lend and what those expectations usually are.
Okay.
This does work better because I am kind of using the tradition, like the very well established superhero conventions of like storytelling when you're talking about like
Mm-hmm.
I think your typical kind of comic book. I shouldn't say comic book.
Okay.
Apparently that's confusing. Yeah.
I mean, it felt like I understood that.
Okay, no, I was trying to. I was having a whole conversation with Austin about this, and I kept saying comic book, and then he was like, "So you're gonna draw this?" And I was like, "No. What to use? What about this says to you that I'm gonna draw this?" And it's like, "Because you keep saying comic book."
Uh, okay. I understand why that would be confusing to him. But no, I totally just took it as like, um,
Superhero romance, yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So you're writing that one?
yeah. No, I'm having a little fun with it.
Okay. Yay, fun.
It's just a fun side project. It's I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know that I'm going to like continue working on it for all that long a time. I'm just kind of working on it until I can find enough enthusiasm. Like I'm kind of going to start borrowing the enthusiasm I have for this thing, and then I'm gonna go like write a chapter on the other thing, and then I'm,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no, I do understand that. um I personally have like if I start the other thing with without having this other one done, right?
right.
Then I will carry that stress into the beginning of the next one, which is always my favorite part to write.
Mm.
And so it's not engaging at all. And it's like, well, if I'm torturing myself anyway, I might as well be writing the other one. Like, it's just like there is no dessert writing in that situation.
I know.
But it's okay. It'll get done. Also, like once I'm done with these sex scenes, I get to do my favorite part, which is editing. But at
It's
first,
just
I
so
have to like
zany of you. Like I
no,
cannot.
I'm
The
such a
editing.
weirdo.
God, you're so freaking weird.
I love editing. It's so fun. Um, but like, and then like I get to do the part where I plan like chapter for chapter what the edits are gonna be and like stuff like that. So it's good. I'm excited. I just have to do the thing. And like in the meantime, I'm just kind of like letting my brain like ruminate on some of the points she made and decide what like how to implement her suggestions sort of thing. Um okay, so character arc. So we talked a lot about how perspective changes.
Yeah, no, I think
I'm trying
perspective
to think
changes
of
is such a great thing to use as a tool of character growth.
I'm trying to think of an example of like actual character change that isn't like all I can think of is like a totally like Regency Duke of like I will not fall in love, therefore, you know, I can't fall in love with like my wife of convenience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I guess we'll just run with that. Because like obviously there needs to be a change within that character that makes them emotionally available, right?
Right. I think
So,
it is
oh, go ahead.
definitely the breaking down of like
The
a
wound.
character's internal logic. Yes, the wound to
Uh-huh.
like kind of it's elaborate. It's the shedding light on like why do you think like this, and then kind of poking
Yeah.
holes in it.
So why
There's
can't I
like,
do it?
yeah. Oh, like you mean like you in like a writing way or like a
Yeah.
I
Like,
I have a
I
thought.
feel
I don't know
like.
if you're gonna
Oh, go ahead.
kind of so what I have kind of been looking at and struggling with, like, well, like in thinking about how growth works for in a
Mm-hmm.
story and like feeling like I'm not creating enough growth for, all my important characters is
Uh-huh.
that like I kind of like so like you start with the wound, this is like this person hurt me, so I'm never going to like get into a real like my best friend hurt me when we
Mm-hmm.
dated, so I'm never going to date my best friend ever again, whoever my best friend
Yeah.
is in the future, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like that was a very I think a common plot you brought up earlier. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna work through the wound. I'm gonna flesh it out, give it all the details, and it's like this is why this person thinks this way. And then it's very easy for me to like write them like that. But oftentimes I
Okay.
find myself like thinking, well, so like especially at the beginning of the story, before I've kind of created what the conflict is going to be throughout, like I feel like this goes hand in hand with shying away from writing the conflict for me. I always feel
Do
very
you shy
shy
away
of it.
from
Personally,
writing the
I feel
conflict?
like I do.
Okay.
I don't feel like I write very angsty things.
I feel
Uh,
like I write characters that I feel they communicate too well. Like, I feel like they,
Everyone's too much of an
like,
adult.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
So, like,
like,
that's something I
when
struggle
I
with
kind
my
of
own writing.
work through what's going to punch the holes in their um, internal logic, like what's going to carry them to their new thinking process and what the new thinking process is going to be, I have
Mm-hmm.
such a hard time when I figure this out of not writing them as that person and not like bringing up like or like literally like I have my equation like here's your one plus your I don't know plus your two equals three. Okay, this is the equation that
Mm-hmm.
the story's gonna follow, and then like where like in the outline where we've just got one and we haven't added two yet, I'm still like, all right, the answer's three, like in the beginning. Like I
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
jumping the gun with like what it is. Like it's like we know he's gonna change. It's fine.
Okay, so what I find I do is I'll, like, pick a character wound, right?
Right.
And then as I'm writing, everything about the entire story changes,
Oh,
right?
right.
And so it doesn't matter what wound I picked. And like this is it I just like realized like cuz like in Just Fake Married there's definitely an arc, like a character arc, right?
Right.
And like all that's there. And it's all stuff I had to work in at the editing level, which
Mm.
goes back to why I love editing, right? Because like the gist of the story has already been created. Does that make sense? So like my problem in writing it is that like I pick the wound, I pick the plot, and then as I'm writing, everything changes. Right?
Right.
And so it's like I have to plug these things in after. And so when I'm like, so why can't I do it? I just can't successfully do it in the rough draft process because I can't keep all of the moving pieces in my head. But I do this in the editing process, right?
Right.
But because this is something that my first drafts always struggle to have, so it's something that is always pointed out to me every single time, I feel I don't do it or I don't do it well because it is always a part of my like manuscript criticism, right?
Mm. Right.
So that's not a very fair thing for me to come about, right? Like
The growth
so
you've had this
what I'm
episode is that you need to be nicer to
yeah.
yourself and look at the whole picture.
Yes. That is my own personal growth. That's my arc here. Um so yeah, no, I'm really glad I came to that realization.
Yeah, me
Um
too.
Yeah.
I think there's always ways to like look at how to make, because I think reading and like being able like to see the character growth like in like real time as you're reading is
Mm-hmm.
something that like is the source of enjoyment in books, you know, for readers.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is one of the things that makes like it's the spice that like makes it so tasty.
Yeah.
And
Well, and then um like the other issue with this book is like I was halfway through and I started to realize like something that had happened in their past that I hadn't realized had happened in their past in the first part.
okay.
And so now like when I go back and edit, I know to work that in. And I know that that is going to be a huge part of their growth, right?
Right. I think I have like one more thought on this, and then I think
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
and of course I just lost it. Ooh, okay. Material changes are something
Ooh.
that I think that, or circumstantial changes, like clear evidence, you know, not just internal wishy-washy ephemeral stuff, you know.
What do
Because
you
like
mean?
if you're like me and you've watched Pride and Prejudice a million times and you've read the book and you still think, I don't think they really changed all that much. Nothing's changed. They said they hated each other at the beginning and then now they like each other. Nothing's changed. You know, like no one
That's wild to me cuz like I
No one
really do
died.
feel like
no one lost an arm. Like nothing
gotcha.
terrible. Like no one's house burned
Yeah.
down. You know? To me, that's like the sign of a good hearty conflict is like there's been such a material change, and I'm going to reference a children's movie.
Okay.
I think the How to Train Your Dragon series is so fucking phenomenal.
I've never
the first
watched it.
Oh my god, it is so
I've never
wonderful.
read it either.
The animation was gorgeous. I have not read the books.
Okay, but we do own the book. And I started reading it to Jude a couple years ago, so I probably should start again now that she's a little older. Because I think it was just a little bit too old for her at the time.
Well, so, okay,
We
the
should do
quick
that one.
rundown of, like, all of How to Train
Uh-huh.
Your Dragon 1 is that, like, the Viking village hates dragons. Dragons, torment them, steal their sheep, all that. And then, like, this one Viking, he's, like, small and puny, and he can't, take
I
down a
thought they
dragon.
had to go and
Well,
get their eggs and stuff. Maybe there's something. Maybe I'm reading something different.
They
Maybe
just
it's not
kind
the same
of
book.
slingshot the dragons down, as far as I remember. Like,
Okay.
they're at war with one another.
Okay.
And so, one day he
yeah.
tries to attack a dragon, it doesn't work, and then he goes and finds that he did hurt the dragon, so it's, like, missing part of its tail. And then,
Okay.
so, like, there's this emotional growth as, like, he teaches this dragon to fly with half a tail. Like, he builds accommodations and helps them, like, through teamwork, they can get the dragon to fly again. And it's, that's the emotional journey. Like, he no longer hates dragons, and, like, then he gets, like, the rest of the village to, like, not hate dragons anymore. But then, like, in the final part of it, like, he loses his leg. And so, like, now he kind of matches his dragon. Which is just, like, cute, like, right there. Like, it's like, oh, they're the same. Like, in a kid's movie.
Like they can
it's
understand
very,
each other better. Yeah.
Like, crying over, like, oh my god, they sacrificed so much for each other.
Aww.
This movie's so well done. It is, I think, one of DreamWorks' best movies.
We'll have to watch it.
Yeah, you definitely should, and then tell me how much you cried.
Okay.
But, like, it's that kind of,
shoot.
like,
Okay, I have another story to tell you.
huge thing that's changed. That, like, your life is forever permanently altered in a very real and physical way. That, to me, kind of marks that you have been through the conflict. It doesn't have to be losing a leg. It can be that your house burned down. Like, but it has to be material.
I have an argument to be made about how Pride and Prejudice does, like, have a material change.
Okay.
But you kind of have to write the epilogue in your head on your own. Okay?
Okay.
So, we know
You have to fanfiction
that
the ending for yourself, but
indeed.
is change.
We know that Darcy's aunt wants him to marry his cousin, right?
Yes.
We also know that like him marrying so below his station absolutely will be drama, right? Like people are going to
Right.
talk about them. And so he is he as a character and like his sense of duty and all of that is being incredibly like denied by giving into this feeling he has for Lizzie, right?
Right.
And then on top of that, everyone's gonna be a bitch to Lizzie, right? So
For a little
like,
bit. She's now super elevated above everybody. So
yeah,
like they
for
can't
sure.
really.
I mean, but they're all gonna do like they're gonna
They're
do
gonna
the
do that thing where
Sister
they like
Bingley
side her.
thing.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Like Bingley's sister is never gonna be cool with Lizzie, right?
Which is like such a tragedy because like the pair of them on the same team would be such a thing
Dude,
to fear.
unstoppable. Like their power combined would just there would be nothing they couldn't do, right? And that has always been like a friendship I've wanted them to have. But like, yeah, it's
in our
definitely
fan
not
fiction
canon.
here.
Exactly. In our fan fiction, I don't know. Sister Bingley gets hooked up with somebody else and she stops being all messed up about it.
Yeah.
Maybe she actually marries a prince or something. And then she can be a little bit above Lizzie, which I think is what she would need in order to be friends.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, so I do think that there is like a lot of material change for them. I mean, obviously her circumstances in general completely change, right?
I guess. And I guess that is the material reality. The thing to me, like when a simple yes or no is like all that's standing between you and like the change in your reality is to me like I'm not going to call it a flimsy plot, but like in my werewolf book that I'm working on, I'm very much working on. The thing that I'm kind of butting heads with right now is that, you know, part of like their whole emotional conflict is he never told her he was a werewolf, so he lied to her. She's very upset about that. She's gonna get over it. So to me, that's very ephemeral. It doesn't feel like, that like it doesn't feel like growth to me. She's just gonna be like, all right, it's fine one day. And then the other thing is that, like, you know, there's all that family drama in there. You know, no humans allowed into the wolf pack. And then they're just going to be like, actually, I guess, yeah, let her in. It's fine.
Well,
So
but
it's like,
their concept of why no humans are allowed in the wolf pack gets dismantled,
yeah.
right? And so it's not necessarily that there's just a yes that's like, I guess it's fine. It's that everything I've known is wrong.
Yes. But
Why don't you want to believe it?
to me, because it feels like, I guess because the way I've set it up is that all the characters who needed the growth have already gone through the growth, and it's just kind of like them getting their shit together to admit to each other, yeah, I'm sorry about that thing, you know? It's just a bunch of people apologizing to each other. It's like, this
The
doesn't
whole
feel like
second
we're
act.
accomplishing anything here. It just feels like, I don't know. I have to, like, keep tinkering with it and, like, I think give myself some, like, concrete examples of how the change is going to be felt. But at the same
We
time,
could also
it does feel
sprinkle
like
it
everything...
through more,
Yeah.
right? So like by like you close up one like interpersonal conflict and open up another, like you could sprinkle it through the whole manuscript so it's not all like at the back half,
Yeah, and I think, like,
right?
part of my problem may be that some elements of the emotional through lines I don't like. I go back and I write them in, but like it doesn't really stick in my head that this is the way that the chapter reflects that now. It's in my head, it's like this is still the chapter where they like have a fight about this thing, and even though I've added these other elements in, it's still primarily about the other thing. And like I kind of erase the work in my head that I've done in the actual manuscript and kind of say like there isn't enough emphasis on it. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I'm sorry. I went into my own head for a second there.
What were you thinking?
I don't know, just how all the different pieces like are moving and you're picking up and dropping them all over the place, right?
Right. Books are so fucking
And
complicated, dude.
it's so complicated.
I'm
It's
so
so
mad
complicated.
that this is like the thing we do. Like, why is it so complicated? Maybe I just gotta go back to writing short stories because like they feel weirdly empty because they're not very complicated, you know? But then like when you get used to it,
but the gratification of it's great.
Yeah. Stop working on longer projects.
I don't know. My first drafts are always so short. Like, without the sex scenes in this book, it's only 37,500 words, right? Wow. Yeah, that's short.
Yeah.
The sex scenes are going to be like 10,000 words in total, right?
Okay. I know you're going to say 10,000 words each.
Each. We're going into detail, okay? 10,000 words each.
The chemical
on
composition
average.
Of everyone's like sweat. You know.
We're gonna have a whole flavor profile on sperm.
No. You clearly did not hydrate enough.
Oh God, ew.
And then we're going to dedicate a couple of chapters to rehydrating.
Yeah, drink water, okay?
Yeah, take a break.
Get some electrolytes in, motherfucker.
Yeah, that chicken bouillon.
That chicken bouillon. Okay. Jesus, I love that we had a callback for that in this episode. Okay. Oh, right. So I personally am sitting here thinking, like, is my story complicated enough for how long it is? But, like, I literally just had the evaluation come back to me saying that the pacing was good and, like, stuff like that. Like, that was one of the things. So she was like, you're good, right? Like, you're fine. You don't have to worry much about pacing. No need to worry. And I'm like, well, you know what? Maybe I could instead. You say don't worry, but I possibly could worry. Well,
maybe
instead.
I could worry. maybe I could stress out about this.
You said it's cool. You're not my dad. You don't tell me what to do. Yeah. So anyway, that's where my brain went. Where I was just kind of contemplating all the different moving pieces and what that means. So yeah. I don't know, Kate, do you have anything else to share?
We've wrung every last thought out of this?
I think we've wrung all the thoughts that I have on this. I think that there's a lot more I don't know. So I think it's one of those things that, like, a couple years from now, I would have such a more intelligent concept of, like, tangible help to give. But this is what I got at this point.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I do have some thoughts that, like, I wrote down for myself to kind of think about for them. Anyway. Anyway, sorry. Do you have a piece of writing advice?
Yeah, maybe it's good enough.
That's the writing advice?
That's the writing advice.
I think that's really good advice. All right,
and, like, I think there's such a magic in moving on to the next thing that we don't really talk about. and I think like we don't focus on, because it is so easy to get wrapped up in a single project and all its little faults and all the ways that you could make it better. But like, if you spend so much time just tinkering over one thing, you're only going to end up with one thing by the end of it, you know?
Well, and I think it's that whole concept of like perfection is the enemy of done.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think that
Like,
there's been a study done about like quality, like in quality versus quantity in learning. Like there was a ceramics course where they had one class of students work on the same pot every day of the semester, and like you have to make this pot perfect by the end of the semester. And then another class where they had every day you make one pot and like it's fired in the kiln and it's done. And the people who got to make a new one every single day ended up with much better pots by the last day of the semester than the people who only got to
mess with the same one.
Continually like just obsess over the one pot. Which I think
That's
like,
really interesting.
Yeah, no, I think studies like that are just so cool and
Yeah.
so relevant to real life.
Okay. I
what's
agree.
yours?
My piece of writing advice. Drink water.
Drink water. I love it. Don't give your characters nasty cum. That is dehydrated.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. No one wants to read that.
Don't write 10,000 words of a sex scene.
Yeah, I do think that's a bit excessive for a sex scene. So, my piece of writing advice. Sometimes you gotta sit with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like right now I'm definitely sitting with how this scene should look, and I'm sitting with how these critiques look and like stuff like that. Like I'm just sitting with it and deciding what needs to go and what needs to stay and what needs to get like go deeper in order to like, you know, prove my point. So Kate, where can they find you?
They can find me all the places, all the socials at by Kate Pryor. So it's usually Instagram, Twitter, for as long as Twitter continues to exist. For now. If they make me pay, I'm not going to continue being on Twitter.
No, get the fuck out of here. Do you know how free social media is? Like,
I'm so worried that it's all going to go the way of paid models now. Like,
well, and like that is my concern. Is I feel like he is making this a pay to play, and it's going to be like, well, people are still there, so we might as well make people pay to play here, and like that's my concern as well. Which would completely dismantle our conversation like sites and like stuff like that, because I think a huge majority of people would be like, yeah, I don't need to look at everyone's, you know, post.
Yeah,
like, I don't need that in my life.
No, I don't want to know what you had for lunch.
Then becomes like, okay, so it's uber important to have your newsletter and stuff like that and be building those resources.
Yes. And you can find Marty's newsletter at Marty's website.
MartyV.com. Yeah. Yeah, you can. You can find Kate's newsletter at kate-pryor.com.
Ooh.
And then you can find... Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, you have one more thing for you?
Well, yeah, I'm at Marty V Author on TikTok and Instagram.
Ooh, okay. Love it. It definitely came out a few days before this episode's going to come out. Heaving Bosoms did such a wonderful little collab with them, and I redesigned their logo, so I'm very excited about that. They got a new theme too, and it is the best music ever.
It is so cute.
Right? I'm so excited for them, and like the way that they're growing and like branching out.
That's awesome.
And Melody, wonderful, wonderful person that she is, read a little excerpt of my book, and it's
Did she?
Yeah, they just posted it today.
That's so great.
Yeah, so there's like half a chapter of my book, and Yeah, it's great. She did such a wonderful job with it.
Yay.
It's on the Heaving Bosoms podcast. I'm gonna link to it on my blog.
Sweeto, dude. That's awesome.
I know, like I have everything I've ever wanted now, so I'm just
Aw.
gonna stop.
That's so great.
Quitting while I'm ahead.
I don't know, dude. You keep on stumbling into these really fantastic moments for you. Like, you had the Ruby Dixon moment with the last book, and now you have Heaving Bosoms with this one. Like, keep going. Like,
Yeah, who else can I harass until like...
you aren't harassing anyone. I know you're not.
Oh, I absolutely harassed Melody into like going to get lunch with me.
You did not?
Yeah,
Did
I
you-
did. I asked her like 3 times, man.
Did you really? Good for you. For one thing, you had such a great time at that lunch.
Yeah, no, I did.
So, yeah. That's awesome. Good job, Kate. All right. Well, listener, I hope you're enjoying your character arc. And
Yeah. Even if
good
you're
luck out there,
doing
friend.
the dishes while you're doing your character arc.
I mean, that is where I do most of my growth. So,
Change
It's
person
prob-
afterwards.
it's probably just because I have to spend so much fucking time doing it.
Oh, I'm alone with my thoughts. All
Oh
right,
my
I'll
god. All right, I'll grow.
grow. If it'll get me out of these dishes. No, it won't.
It won't. No, we just keep on using dishes. It's a damn shame. All right, character. Nope. All right, listener.
All right,
Good lord.
listener.
Night, listener. Night.
Bye.
Bye.